Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a get ready with me tag, but it's not the usual get ready with me because it's not a makeup tutorial. I know you've been asking me for a makeup tutorial for such a long time. I'm going to do my makeup while I'm sharing a few personal stories about my self-confidence journey with you. I hope you enjoy it. I thought of doing a get to know me tag video, but focusing on my journey with self-confidence. Because as a woman, and as my time as Miss South Africa and Miss World, I used to take, let's say, 30 to 45 minutes in the morning to get ready. And this was the time where I reflected, where I actually felt the lack of self-confidence. I've actually had a few people tell me, you know, you probably never struggle with a lack of self-confidence. You probably always feel confident in your own skin, in your own body, but that is actually not what it is like. I do struggle with self-confidence, and when I was a young girl, I was in primary school when something really horrible happened to me. So I started doing a little bit of modeling, and I was on my way to Paris for modeling, and there was an elderly lady who one day took a measuring tape and she measured me before I went off to Paris, and she told me, you know, your hip circumference is 95 centimeters and we'll have to get it down to 90 centimeters. And from that day, it was almost like my self-confidence was stolen, and I really had to work so hard to accept myself. And it was it might seem like it was such an insignificant moment, but for a young girl who never really focused on what you looked like, that was a horrible experience. And from that day, I found myself measuring myself against what I feel perfect should be. So yes, that was like a very long introduction, but today I'm going to speak about some of the circumstances and scenarios in my life where I felt that I have a lack in self-confidence, and where self-confidence was stolen from me, and I actually allowed it. So after that experience in primary school, I found myself questioning what I look like, what I do, what I say. I just questioned myself, and my curly hair was one of the things. I remember a friend tell me, you have kruskopare, and that really hurts me, and I felt like there's obviously something wrong with my curly hair, because why would she say something rude like that? And yes, I from that day I didn't want to have curly hair, and it's only recently when I started to embrace my curly hair, when people told me it's beautiful, and I found so many women with curly hair who actually started embracing their curly hair. I always thought that self-confidence is something that you can achieve. It's like, okay, if I become Miss South Africa, I'll be self-confident. If I become Miss World, I'll be self-confident. And my life proven the exact opposite. It was never something that I could achieve. It's actually a choice that you can make, and it's a way of life and a way of thinking, and it's a choice you make every day. I still struggle with self-confidence every single day. And on my journey to Miss South Africa, I still remember that I really compared myself to the other contestants, and people might think that if you in a competition like that, it's always, you know, there's a lot of cattiness, and girls don't like one another and they try to ruin one another, but it's actually not that. You are your worst enemy in that space, because you constantly comparing your beauty, your face, your hair, your body with those around you. And I thought that, okay, if I become Miss South Africa, I'll be more self-confident. Then I became Miss South Africa and I started questioning my ability to be a good Miss South Africa. I mentioned in a previous video about my time as Miss South Africa that I gained a lot of weight because I wasn't in routine anymore. I was so alone. I actually went through a time where I was really depressive and depressed. So people actually commented on social media that they don't think I'll ever be ready for Miss World or for Miss Universe because I'm too fat, I look pregnant. And I still remember literally lying in my bed and crying myself to sleep because how can people say stuff like that to me? And it was almost like a negative, it was like a snowball effect. As soon as they started saying things like that, I started doubting myself and became even more unhealthy. And it went up to a point where my mom was so worried about me and so concerned, and she actually came to live with me in my house. And Werner also helped me prepare for Miss South Africa, and they literally basically lived with me and they supported me. And if it wasn't for their support, as well as my boyfriend at that time, who's my husband now, I wouldn't have been ready for Miss World. And it wasn't that it was only about being overweight and had to lose a lot of weight. It was about the self-confidence that I had. I didn't think that I was able to do it, and the things that people said around me just reimbursed that feeling of I'm not good enough. So I didn't become self-confident when I won Miss South Africa. It was literally the opposite. And then I thought, okay, well, you know, I've worked really hard to be ready for Miss World, and I felt like I was ready for Miss World. And I thought, well, I'll definitely be more self-confident if I was able to win Miss World. And it wasn't like that. I was there. I woke up every morning, and luckily I had a really lovely roommate. We sang gospel songs while getting ready in the morning, and I just realized we're not here to compete against one another, actually. We're just here to spend wonderful time together. We're here to make lovely friendship. And that was a time in my life where I actually did feel confident because of the fact that I decided I'm not going to compare myself. What would the use be? There's almost like 200 women from different countries. There's no way. And if you compare yourself, you always end up comparing your weaknesses to someone else's strengths. And that is the worst thing you can do because you can never win like that. So I just decided I'm going to focus on my own strengths. So I was really happy about that. And when I was crowned Miss World, the self-confidence kind of was stolen from me again because I felt so many eyes on me. I felt like everyone was looking at me. The first thing when they put the crown on my head, I thought was, you know, what now? Am I going to be good enough? Am I going to represent my country well? All of those negative thoughts came back and they creeped back, and I didn't really deal with them. So I think that's why they came back again. And yeah, so my time as Miss World was such a learning experience because as I got ready in the mornings, this was exactly the way I got ready when I was in a hotel room. So I used to take this mirror with me because hotel rooms don't have very good light, and I would sit, and this was like the me time I had. And sometimes I struggled with my skin, sometimes I had a bad hair day, and this was the time where I kind of recuperated before I went out and realized that, you know, even though you put on a full face of makeup, it's almost like just putting a plaster on the injury. It's not like you're taking it away, and you have to deal with that self-confidence issue from the inside out. So as I put on my makeup, you know, I told myself I am not my skin. If I have a skin problem, that's fine. If I have a bad hair day, that's fine. I am not my hair. And I think that every woman can use her morning routine to just focus on yourself and tell yourself that you are enough, you are beautiful, you are more than enough, and you don't have to be perfect. And it's something that I try to do every single day. So I've spoken so much, I haven't done anything to my face, so I think I'm just quickly going to put on some eyebrows. And I actually ended up doing my own makeup for my wedding, which was very special. I just thought that, I didn't know anything about makeup before I entered Miss South Africa, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I ended up being really comfortable with doing my own makeup. And people feel that if you have to do your own makeup for your wedding, it will just put on a lot of pressure, but I actually preferred it because, like I've mentioned, the time I spend doing my makeup in the mornings is literally the time I spend in a way talking to myself. So it was so special. I was there with my little mirror with my bridesmaids around me, played some wonderful music, and I was just sitting there preparing myself for the big day. And yes, I did my own makeup for my wedding. And after I became Miss World, I still feel like I have so many eyes on me. And in the beginning it was so horrible because I felt like I had to look perfect every day. My skin can't be out of place, my body can't be out of place. And in a way, when you enter Miss South Africa and Miss World, you realize that that is something that you're going to give up. You're going to give up your privacy, and you're going to open yourself to people's comments and people's opinions about you. And I've just realized that, it is in a way it's a choice I made. Didn't necessarily know what to expect, but it was a choice I made, and there are more positive things about that than negative things. So it still is a conscious choice and decision I have to make every day to just be me and to just accept who I am. And my son really helps me because he is so lovable. In the mornings when I put on makeup and I put on some earrings, he'll come to me and tell me, "Mama, jy's mooi." So it's just so wonderful to kind of see myself through the eyes of someone else. So, ask someone who you love how you see me, and they'll tell you exactly how they see you. And a 2.5-year-old boy can't really lie at this stage. So it's more than what we look like. Makeup also taught me patience. The dreaded winged eye. And the worst is if you've just done your wing eye and your mascara and then you sneeze. That's the worst thing ever. And it's happened to me so many times. Then everything is just a mess. So I'm almost done, and I think that what I actually wanted to say probably is that we shouldn't take the time that we spend on our own doing something simple like just putting on some makeup for granted. It really is a time that we can focus on think about, why do I feel like I feel, and get in touch with your emotions before the day starts, and reflecting on why you perhaps have a lack of self-confidence. And one thing I try to do is probably the most difficult thing, is that right after I've done my makeup, to look myself in the mirror and say, "Hey gorgeous." And that's so difficult. I know it is so difficult, and I still struggle doing that. But if you say it out loud, even though it sounds very odd, at some point in time you ought to start believe it, I think. Yeah, so let's go. Hello, gorgeous.